Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I am very pleased today to introduce somebody who I've known of on and off now for probably the last 4 or 5 years. As you can see, it's not just me in this video. I have somebody who's going to make it far more interesting. Mr. Glenn Gretlund of 7A Records. Glenn, welcome to the channel.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Very good. I'm very
Thank you
happy
for having me.
Yes, I'm very excited for this. I was just telling Glenn off camera, I've wanted to do this interview for a while. Just recently built up the courage to say, hey, let's make it happen.
I'm glad you did. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to see where this conversation is going to go. But for the people that are watching, for my viewers, as you all know, I'm a very massive Monkees fan. So if you recognize the 7A moniker, you Monkees fan diehards will know where that came from. But Glenn has been in and out of the record business now for, you said, over 30 years.
Nearly 30 years, yeah.
And he helped co-found 7A back in 2015. All sorts of artists have come through the doors of 7A. You've worked with everybody from obviously the individual Monkee camps, so the 4 guys, Mickey, Mike, Davey, and Peter, in various forms. You've also done work with Macy Gray, Mungo Jerry, the Lemon Sherbets, Dave Edmunds, all sorts of people who have releases with the 7A logo attached. So it's a wide variety of folks on this label. You can check it out, 7a.com. It has everything listed, their inventory, artist bios, and more information about the company that we don't have time to fully share with everybody, but it's a great website, 7arecords.com. One of the things that stands out to me on your site, and one of the quotes that you have on your profile is, quality is more important to us than profit. So, I want to kind of start there because as somebody who is a record nut, I mean, behind me are just my CDs. I have records over on this side off camera. And again, viewers of my channel will know where they are, what I'm talking about. I have a bunch of CDs and records here from 7A. And as somebody that appreciates record packaging, record quality, deluxe sets, it means a lot with what you all do with your product. I mean, the very first product that 7A worked on was this right here.
That's right, yeah.
Mickey Dolenz, the MGM singles. Now, this is a great set. And again, most of their CD sets look like this in some form or another with the gatefold. There's always a great book. There's always liner notes by the experts, photos, all sorts of things. So, Glenn, like I said, to start, let me know a little bit about why quality is so important to a label like 7A.
Well, I mean, if you go back to that release, which was the very first one we did, Mickey Dolenz, the MGM singles, that came about because Ian Lee had been trying for a long time to get the rights to find out what happened to the masters for that particular album. And I was quietly sort of following the chat online to see where that was going. And finally, one day he said, I've now located the masters, but I don't know how to go about approaching Universal. And that's how I came into it, because I'd already been in the music business for quite a long time. So I knew how to draw up contracts, and I knew how to talk to the record labels. I knew how to license. I contacted Ian, and I said to him, first of all, you can't just go to them and say, I'd like to license this. You have to have a company. You have to have a label. They won't just license to a guy standing on the corner. You have to have a you have to have a label. So we set up 7A, and we were meant to shake hands after that release came out and say that was it. That's what we wanted to do. Thank you so much, and go on our merry way. But we sort of thought, why don't we do another one? Why don't we do another release? And one followed the other after that. And which came natural to me because I'd already have my other label, Not Now Music, for many years. And where I was releasing 10, 15 albums a month, quite a lot of releases every month of mainly older artists, reissues. But it came natural to me to just, keep researching and keep releasing stuff. Whereas Ian was new to it. But we kind of followed that road down for a while, and then released some very nice albums. And after a while, we decided to part ways. But we were still very good friends, and I'm happy that I've been able to continue 7A and sort of still doing it. And it all came about really because the album that we wanted to buy wasn't available. The MGM singles wasn't available, and that was the album that me and Ian as fans wanted to buy. So yeah, that's how it all started. But as I said, I had already worked in the music business since I was 19, releasing albums. And funnily enough, vinyl then came back. I mean, we can talk about that later, but when I started, it was all cassettes and CDs, and then vinyl came back. Who would have thought that? Yeah.
I mean, I would say even in 2015, because I mean, so many people, myself included, vinyl kind of became the collectible thing when the pandemic struck. I mean, myself with my channel, a lot of my friends here on YouTube started into vinyl because of there was nothing else to do. We were just ordering records and able to relate in that way. So, the fact that these CDs, and again, like it's really every release that you all have put out, have this same kind of this quality and this standard to it, which is something that's hard to come by, especially with a smaller label like 7A, where a lot of people might.
Yeah, I think the fact that we are fans, that we are fans, music fans in general, but Monkees fans had a lot to do with it, because you want to put your very best effort into making it as good as you can. It has to be the release that you yourself as a fan would want to buy. Otherwise, it just doesn't feel right.
Sure.
I never wanted to compromise with quality or packaging, because I kind of feel like, what's the point then? Why would, and this is something that I always ask myself, would you as a fan, it doesn't matter if I don't, let's say there's a release where I'm not necessarily a huge fan of the music, but I have to put myself into the fan's shoes. And I have to say, if I was a fan, if I was a really big fan, would I buy this? And if I'm a tiny bit unsure, then I just don't do it. There has to be a reason. It has to be something that you as a fan would buy. And that's kind of what I've always been doing.
And especially, we're recording this on the eve of Record Store Day. So
that's right, yeah.
Everybody that are collecting records are going to go out and find these limited releases and all of that. And I think we've all, as collectors, have been in the instance where we've been so excited for a release, order it without even knowing much about it, and we receive the end product and are disappointed in packaging and quality, whether that's the outer sleeve is too thin, whether the spine is split, anything like that.
It's missing a track.
It's missing a track.
It does happen.
That has happened.
It does happen, doesn't it? Yeah.
That's, to me, as a collector, when you're spending your hard-earned money on these items that, again, are going up in price just with the pieces that are needed to create the packaging, the artwork. We want the highest product that we can get, even from albums that are just a standard release, which is what you all, again, do so well with your products.
Oh, thank you.
So with those early moments with Ian, tell me again, just to kind of trail back to this for a moment. You were already working in the business at this time for almost 20 years. This was about 11 years old now. Yeah. What was it like, or did you, for this first release, have correspondence with Mickey directly?
It was a very sort of long, just getting the rights from Universal wasn't easy at all. It was quite a long process. First of all, they didn't realize that they owned the rights to it. So we spoke to Mickey and Michael Lloyd, who was in Starship, and they said, no, Universal definitely do own the rights. So we went back to Universal, said, we think you own the rights. And they said, okay, can you scan the vinyl labels and send them over to us as JPEGs, and we'll look into it.
Wow.
And then, time keeps ticking, and, we keep chasing and chasing. And finally say, we checked it out, and we do own the rights, but we don't have any masters. But in the meantime, we gotten in touch with somebody who worked in the Universal Vault, Master Vault. And he said, that's funny, because I'm sitting here with the masters in my hand. So we said, okay, back to Universal again. We've now located the masters. They are in your vault. And they said, okay, fine, we can transfer them, but it's going to cost you. I said, okay. So we negotiated a price. But that all took a long time. I mean, it took ages, and made the achievement even better. Or, it's just a relief when it finally came out. But Mickey was fantastic, and did, I don't know if you've seen the liner notes to it, but he did a very long interview with Ian for that particular release, which was very helpful. And I think he was very surprised somebody was issuing them after all these years. And I'm glad we did, because it's very possible that they would still be sitting in the vault somewhere, not knowing who owns them if we hadn't done it.
Well, I think that's what's so great about you all is, I mean, just looking at the work that has come out of 7A, so many of these songs and so many of these live performances, some of these alternate takes, whatever it might be, none of it is, quote, mainstream stuff. I mean, everybody knows, the core Monkees albums, or the core, Dave Edmunds albums. What the fans know what they are, but to get something like, for example, like Peter Tork's, Stranger Things Have Happened, where so many of these songs, I mean, over half of this release are unreleased kind of things.
Yeah.
And that's not stuff that you're going to hear on the radio, or even if like there was a Monkees radio somewhere. Some of this stuff is pretty obscure, but it's great. And the fact that you all can dig and hunt and work with the proper people to give this a new life is just.
But again, as a fan, that's something that we feel was important. Give them as much. Sometimes you might say, in some cases, less is more. If you just add bonus tracks for the sake of it, then it doesn't really make any sense. Mm-hmm. But if you have enough songs where it makes sense to add them, and they kind of go together, and there's then we certainly do it, because we aren't under the same restraints as you might be in America, where you have certain publishing rules where you have to clear the publishing in advance and pay track by track. We don't have that in Europe or in the United Kingdom. We pay a percentage of the dealer price to the publishers, and you pay for every one you sell. You don't pay X amount up front. Wow. And that makes it much more viable to release things, and you don't have to be. This is why you see a lot of American releases only have 10 or 12 tracks. It's because of the publishing. It costs so much money per track, but we don't have that issue here. Thankfully, we can put as many tracks on as we want, and it's still only 8.5% of the dealer price that you have to pay as a mechanical copyright. So it makes it far more easy, and I think a more fair system, to be honest, because otherwise you end up potentially paying a lot of money up front that you're never going to be able to recoup. Right. So it certainly does help us a lot, being in that respect being based over here.
Well, that's interesting, because you don't have those restraints, but like you said, you still go with that less is more thing. I mean, I'm thinking of the live in Japan releases for Mickey and Davey that you've put out, where you have, a DVD, and it's kind of, not bootleg is not the word that I'm wanting to use, but it's a rougher recording. It's not, but you don't have to overrun the CD with, every single version and every single, cough in the audience. You're wanting to give the listener the main tracks. You're wanting to give some rapport with the audience, but also keep it concise so that the listener doesn't grow tired of it. And again,
but we would have asked ourselves the same question again. We would have said before it came out, would I as a fan want to own this? Mm-hmm. And the answer was absolutely yes. I'd want this live recording because I'm a fan, So that's why we felt it was worth doing. Definitely.
Yeah. No, because again, we're also in a world where so many of our favorite artists are putting out these anniversary sets. I mean, obviously, so many times, how many times a week do we get a notification that says, 50th anniversary box set, 60th anniversary, remaster for the, upteenth time.
Yeah.
There's only so many versions of, this song that we can hear and not grow tired of it. And sometimes we get a release simply because it's hit that copyright mark and they've just got to put it out or lose it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. I mean, I can see it from both angles, because I can see it from the fans' point of view. I can also see it from the record company's point of view. I can see why a company like Warner's Rhino now being owned by Warner Brothers, I can see why that they want to exploit the back catalog. I can see why they would want to release a greatest hits or a good times anniversary or whatever. I can see why they think that's a good idea, because they own the rights. Mm-hmm. And what's the point in just sitting on the rights when you can do something with it? Right. I also know that as a fan, it might sometimes seem disappointing because there isn't anything new. There's nothing new there that you don't already own as a fan. Mm-hmm. But I can't really blame them for trying to make something on the back catalog. And you could always wish they would do more and go further. But I can certainly see it from both points of view.
And what I find interesting from you all, again, just looking at your site, looking where you can shop for your CDs and records, it seems like you all rarely, go out of stock on things, which is great for the fan, that we're not, going to second and third parties trying to find, this Peter Tork album that we can.
Funny enough, that's just sold out last week. Funny enough.
Okay, well, the Mickey Dolans. That's great. I'm glad that's out for you. That's hilarious. But to see, so many of these older releases, these 10, 11-year-old releases from you all that are still there, as a fan, I think that's great. And, talking about some of these records that are coming out now, Good Times being the example that obviously it just got the 10th anniversary announcement. That album hasn't really been produced since it came out, those first couple of presses. And so as the fan, as somebody who's maybe 20 years old now, they would have been 10 when it came out. That's a great reason for them to get it, because, okay, it's back. But for us that were there and excited when it came out, we might think and have the cynical view, oh, why is that the thing coming out, without remembering, there are people younger than us who haven't heard this before or own it physically.
Yeah, and there would be a young marketing department at one of the major labels, I guess, and a lot of them would say, it's been a decade, let's put it out again, and you can't blame them. It is true, but sometimes you wish they could go a little bit further, but they have to balance their books as well, and they probably look at, is it really worth us recording a new song or whatever? It all costs money.
Yes.
And now, there's no doubt that the way a lot of the majors are thinking now is mainly digital, and the physical is kind of secondary, unfortunately, because me as a music fan and yourself, obviously we like having the stuff digitally, but our real sort of passion is the physical product.
Yes.
And I think nowadays, to have a successful record label, you need to have both. You need to have both physical and digital. You can't just rely on one. So that's. But I get what you're saying about suddenly it's been 10 years or maybe 20 years even, and it doesn't feel that long for us. But
right.
There's a reason. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always interesting too, because for me, maybe I'm just in the minority. I don't think I am for people that watch this channel, but a lot of times we'll receive something, from one of our favorite artists, whether it's, for me, like I love the Beach Boys. I'll use them as an example. They, about 4 or 5 years ago, released this massive digital release. Again, it was a copyright thing from 1967 or 68. They said, oh, we have this new live and release coming out with all these demos. And I was very excited because I thought for sure, okay, we're going to get another box set. But no, it was just kind of a copyright. We just got to throw all this out there digitally. Yeah. And for me, because of who I am, in my opinion, I'm thinking, well, that doesn't exist. Like, I'll never go on to Spotify or Apple or whatever and listen to it, because I want it on my turntable. I've got things
Yeah.
set up the way I want to. My CD player. That's how I want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad it exists, but as the music fan, and when I say music fan, I mean, like you said, the physical format, these liner notes that, you know, you all curate so well. That's what I want in addition.
I think you have to cater for everybody, because there's a lot of people out there that aren't necessarily massive fans. They just want to listen to music when convenient, and they just stick a song on, and they don't necessarily want to own anything, or they aren't that passionate, or and I understand that. So you have to cater for both groups. You have to cater for the real sort of music fans that want the physical side, but also people who are not necessarily major fans, but just want a little bit of music in the background and want to skip around like they, you know. And I use both. You know, I think you have to have everything. I quite often find new music digitally, and then I actually go and buy the physical.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good way of discovering music.
It is, and in the long run, it'll end up saving you money too if you just blind buy any record that comes out, and then you think, oh well, I shouldn't have spent the $30 £30 on the record because I'm not a fan.
But I mean, everybody's different. But I don't need to. I mean, I don't need to own the same LP in 4 different colors necessarily. But I know some people do, and that's fine. You know, but that's you do sort of wonder sometimes. You do think that maybe you could have added something extra, or the label could have added something extra rather than just a different color. But you know.
Well, I would say with that, I mean, again, for me, one of my first interactions with your company, actually, I would probably say the first interaction with your company was this record right here. I would say that I'm a bigger Nesmith fan than I am a Monkees fan. I absolutely adore Michael Nesmith. I, want everything that his name is on. And this record came out. I didn't think anything of that right there, that 7A. I listened to this. I thought it was just great music. It was recorded perfectly. That's where I first heard of, some of these songs, some of these First National Band songs. For those that don't know, this is the First National Band Redux that Michael Nesmith put together. And this is their performance at the Troubadour in Los Angeles. Beautiful show, country rock, all of that wonderful stuff that Nez was known for. But then I listened to this, and then I got into Cosmic Partners. Yeah. And so then I started thinking, well, wait a minute, there's that 7A again. Let me dig into this some more. And then all of a sudden, I find all of these solo Monkee releases, and I find, all sorts of other.
Yeah, I'm very proud to have been able to work with Michael Nesmith on those releases. And, obviously a massive fan myself, and so happy that we got to work together before he passed away. And I agree with you that Troubadour concert was fantastic, and the whole backing band, the Redux band, everything just came well together. And Christian Nesmith produced it, of course, and did a fantastic job again on it. And to see Michael wearing the T-shirt with that cover on it, during his Monkees concert was a really proud moment as well, because obviously, well, he actually said so himself. He said, "This is probably the best album I've made."
Wow.
He actually said that in an interview, which means a lot. So we're very lucky and grateful to have been able to work with him on getting that released.
That has to just be a surreal moment, just going back to thinking of your younger self when you were just listening to the music or watching the TV show, to know that Nez says to you about a record that you helped curate.
Yeah, it's like an unreal moment. Yeah, unreal.
It's gotta be.
Yeah.
Wow. Because you were mentioning, adding that additional thing for fans, and again, you re-released several of his First National Band records. This is just the one that I grabbed, but your standard Ranch Stash right here, which of course I have on CD as well. But the original was not a gatefold, and that's the case with several of these. But you do such a good job with putting out the gatefold, all sorts of liner notes, and as a fan, that's what we want. We want.
Yeah, when we did those, because we have a good contact at Sony, who we licensed the albums from. When I did those, I looked at when did they last come out? And you're talking, I can't remember the exact years for those, but you're talking more than 20 years for all of those. So like 2 decades. And it definitely felt like now was the right time to bring them out again. There were some others that came out on Sundays, like the first 3 albums came out. So we kind of, although I'd love to have reissued those, I kind of felt we weren't really going to be able to add much to them because Sony wouldn't give us any bonus tracks, and
they were category cuts, and
then you would end up, like we spoke about before, you'd end up literally just reissuing it with a new color vinyl, which I didn't want to do as a fan. That's why I haven't thought about doing the first 3, because I kind of felt like that had already been done. I know there are bonus tracks that could have been added, but they just wouldn't license them to us for whatever reason. Maybe they would now, but it just feels like somebody else has done it. So it's I prefer to do things that I as a fan would buy. I don't just want to buy the same issue again and again unless there's a reason for it.
Well, yeah, I would be interested to hear your take, being in the business side of things, because that's a complaint that I hear so much from my friends who, they also do interviews like this with, maybe other smaller record labels. They just talk to me, read text back and forth about things. So many people complain that the reissue campaigns of today are just out of control. I mean, you can pick an album like Rumors by Fleetwood Mac that's on every record shelf. You could find a reissue of that from at least the last every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
As somebody that works in the business, I mean, what do you think of that? Because what you said is exactly what people want, is that we don't need this again. We want something like this that hasn't been out 100 different times.
Yeah, I think when it reaches that stage, you're not really catering for the diehard fans anymore. I think you're just, amazingly, there must still be new people buying it, new vinyl fans buying it for the first time, because I can't imagine that the same fans are buying it 40 times over. But every record label needs a few titles that kind of like a cash cow. They need like a couple of releases that really bring in the money, right? And Rumors would be one of those. Dark Side of the Moon would be another. And you've seen so many. And there's a reason why they keep reissuing it, because it keeps selling. I don't know who buys it. I refuse to believe it's the diehard fans that keep buying it. There must be new people picking up Dark Side of the Moon for the first time. Otherwise, I just can't see. You can't just keep selling it to the same fans. I don't think so.
Right.
That's my view. I might be wrong, but I you'd have to have an awful lot of diehard fans if you're going to make a business out.
I mean, I think of it the same way as I think of my local record shops. Here in town, is you want to go in and see those new releases changed at least once a week, because otherwise, the people that are going to be going into the record stores, if they're seeing the same new releases all the time, there goes the money. And those are small businesses that rely on people like you and I to go in and pay, our cash to buy records that we can't find online, or records that we want to see and feel. Yeah. And it's the same.
I think that's the point of Record Store Day, isn't it? Where the idea is that you can actually on that particular day find releases that aren't on Amazon, or and the fact that some end up online anyway is probably against what it's meant to be doing. But that was the whole idea of it, that you can actually go to the shop and find new and interesting things that you can't just sort of buy online.
Right.
And I hope that continues. But I have heard a lot of complaints that most of it ends up online anyway.
Yes. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation that I know people have been complaining about now, especially the last few years. Like, I think really since post-pandemic, when Record Store Day, I think, has really become so much more commercial than it used to be, where they used to just have a dozen or so titles back when it first started. Now you have big name artists and ambassadors coming into the business of wanting to sponsor it, putting out a special song.
Yeah.
And it's throwing away the folks who are the bread and butter consumers. but there's pros and cons to both sides of it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's just if you're going to queue up for 5 hours or more outside a record shop, especially in England on a rainy day, you don't want to find out after that you could just have ordered it online,
Yeah.
There has to be a reason. I know
Yes.
somebody who slipped outside a shop in Soho in London just to buy a Ghostbusters vinyl single.
Yeah.
And he came in and the last one had already sold.
Wow.
So I'm not going to do that. But yeah, I know that there are a lot of diehard fans. And if that continues, it's going to die. The record store day is going to die. They're going to have to find a way of making it special.
Right. Yeah. There's, I mean, again, I will still go as long as it exists. And I support my record stores throughout the year anyway. Purchasing new.
You probably don't have to sleep. You don't have to sleep outside the shop, though. I take it.
No. This will probably air after record store day, but I don't think my shop's open at 9, and I'll probably be there no later than 7 in the morning.
Yeah, a couple of hours. Yeah.
A couple of hours.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because again, your label is so intertwined with the Monkees. I mean, right down to the name of the company. However, as I mentioned in the intro, there are so many other artists that you deal with. One of my absolute favorites, and again, this is Monkee related, and I listened to this just a couple of weeks ago before my trip, is this Voice and Heart record, which I think is absolutely wonderful. And again, I'll just show it for the fans. My lighting's not great, but it's on a beautiful, translucent red vinyl. So again, putting the care into it like you've done with everything else. When did you start bringing out these other artists? I mean, I know you had the early Peter Noone disc that came out. Another one that I have, not Monkees related at all.
Oh yeah. Lemon Sherbets. I'll tell you when it came about. It was after a while. It sort of became clear that if I wanted to continue 7A, I would quickly run out of material if it was purely Monkees related, unless I went down the route as we spoke about and didn't just sort of kept reissuing stuff that had already been out there. And I didn't want to do that. So I tried to branch out a little bit and get some other artists in. Again, music that I was passionate about. This would have been after Ian left. I was keen to try and do some different things as well. But I always looked at, is this currently available? Is it something I would buy as a fan? What can we do to make it extra special? And sometimes opportunities come to you, and sometimes you have to seek them yourself. Lemon Sherbets, to mention that one, I suddenly heard it and I thought that's a fantastic sounding album. Mm-hmm. Although I knew full well how difficult, and I certainly found out how difficult it is to break a new artist nowadays. Mm. It's very, very difficult to you need a big money machine behind with marketing to get the name out there. And especially on physical, because to convince people to buy something physically when it's available online for streaming is very difficult. You have to be a real fan. So, but something like the Boys and Heart album, that's one of my personal favorite albums from that period. I just think the sound is unbelievable, and it says in the liner notes as well. I think Andrew Sandoval might have written the liner notes for it, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it Mark Kleiner? I think it might be Sandoval.
It was Andrew, yeah.
Yeah. It says in there that Bobby Hart mentions that he was approached by Brian Wilson, I believe, to produce the next Beach Boys album around that time, but they turned it down. Or maybe they didn't turn it down, but something happened, so it never came about. But you can kind of tell why. You can understand why they were approached, because if you listen to that album, there are certain background, some of the sounds on there are not dissimilar to the Beach Boys sound. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's a wonderful album. And it's one of those that me as a fan, it hadn't been issued on vinyl since the 70s or something. I mean, a long time ago. And I thought this would be nice to bring it out again, especially with the vinyl boom that was going on at the time. Get it out there again and do a nice remastered job. and get Andrew to write some fantastic liner notes. So that was a real joy. And Henry Dills, Gary Strobel found some great pictures that Henry Dills had in the archive, especially for the CD booklet that we were able to include. So just making it a little bit more special. And thankfully, I managed to get a copy to Bobby Hart while he was still alive. And,
wow! Yeah,
that was nice. So,
did you feel a pressure early on to have there be? I mean, because obviously there's a bridge between that album and the Monkees. I mean, they do Teardrop City, I Want to Be Free, which were Monkees songs as well that they wrote for them. Did that seem to be a thing at all in the early days, trying to make a connection with the Monkees, or was it more of just at that point finding artists that you could get the rights for?
No, I wanted to try and go in a different direction, so I had both, because what would also happen sometimes, for instance, I released an album by Paul Young, who you might know. He was really big in the 80s, especially over here, great artist and a lovely man. And I had a meeting with his manager at one point, and quite early on, and he was saying, well, I looked at your website and it's all Mickey Dolenz. And I was trying to convince him to license me this new album of Paul's, right? And I suddenly felt like this is quite difficult to convince somebody when 80% of your catalog is that. And I understand that. And I wanted to show people that we, that we're more than just one genre. We could do other things as well. That's why I started branching out, and the Macy Gray album is a good example. It's an album that had never been out on vinyl. It might have been on very sort of small limited pressing, but not sort of to a wider public. And that was again something that was completely different direction to what we had been doing.
I think that's kind of the thing with any artist. I mean, even with the record production aspect of it, is trying to convince people that we're more than just this genre. I mean, Michael Nesmith, let's use him as the example. People disregarded him when he left the Monkees because he was part of the Monkees. That was the only reason. And that's got to be difficult, especially, and I've never thought of it this way, considering 7A, of trying to get these other artists, like you said, Macy Gray being the prime example of somebody not at all in the genre of, the Monkees or the general fan base of the Monkees. I can only imagine, other artists looking in those early days and thinking, do I want to be associated with all the Monkees stuff? It doesn't just have to be the Monkees. It could be any artist that a label is focusing on. So I've never thought, that's very interesting that was a concern.
Yeah. I didn't want, but again, I mean, the main reason wasn't that I was too concerned about what other people were thinking. It's more, there just wouldn't be a 7A if it had to be just Monkees related. We would run out of material very quickly.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the main reason behind it. I wish we could. I would happily just release Monkees music if I could. But
right.
Yeah.
Do you? But no, I think we were talking about these artists and trying to put the money behind independent artists and how difficult that is for you with the lemon sherbets or whoever it might be. But I think I know what I was going to ask you, as the CEO of a company whose one of your primary goals is, I would assume, you're putting out not only new music like the Dolan Sings Nesmith record, but also preserving these lost tracks, preserving these live tracks or demos. Do you find that is, like, at this point, something that is a mission for you to find these tracks and to compile them for the public?
Yes, that's certainly always going to be part of it. There's no doubt about it. In fact, I'm working on something at the moment, which I have mentioned before to a few people, where it's a David Jones collection of his, what I think are some of his best live recordings. And there are a few recordings on there that people wouldn't have heard before. There's some very rare stuff on there. For instance, there's him singing Lady in Red, a song by Christy Burke that you just wouldn't associate with David Jones normally. So it's finding these sort of as a fan, you want these sort of, you don't just want Daydream Believer again live, you want more than that, right? So, but I just happen to think that Davey was a fantastic live performer, and it's part of his story that I think is important to tell, that he always gave 110%, and it sounded great live, and to find the very best of his live recordings and try to put them together in a meaningful compilation it's been something that's taken me quite a long time, but I'm nearly there now, and it's definitely going to be out this year. And I've made an agreement with Davis Estate, and so it's all going ahead.
Wow.
Now we're just hunting for the best possible pictures, which always takes a bit of time. Even with somebody who was photographed as many times as David, you still want to try and find the pictures that aren't already all over the internet and in everybody's collection. You want to go again. You want to, as a fan, you want to try and find something that's not been necessarily published before, something you might not have seen. And we did that with the last one, the Music and Memories. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes, I meant to grab it. It's back here on my shelf. But yeah,
that was quite a small run we did of that one, because I already knew that some fans might say, well, we already got most of these recordings, but it was really to be able to tell his MGM story that I wanted to put it out, because we've told Monkees, and here are Davies tracks, and there was a few of those, like You're a Lady and Who Was It, and songs like that would have been forever left in the vault, only available on bootlegs and things like that. So I as you say, it is kind of, I'm still driven to try and put the record right, and put the songs out that are difficult to find, and preserve the songs and the legacy, the music. That's still a big part of it, no doubt about it. And I find that extra interesting as a fan.
Yeah, I mean, fans are clamoring for the hidden tracks. I mean, that's the whole thing, the lost tracks.
And I know there's a few diehard fans that are always going to say, well, we already have these. But there will be a lot of, and this is what I'm really aiming for, there's a lot of people that never have heard these. And you still come across a lot of people, like when you talk about the Monkees, you still come across a lot of people that aren't necessarily familiar with their solo careers. All they have in their collection is something that says Monkees on it. And I personally think that's a shame, because there's much more to the story than that. They're 4 individual people that were put together because they were as different as they could be, and they also had very different solo careers, and that's part of the story that I want to tell as well.
Well, it's amazing how, I mean, you even take a group like the Beatles. There are some people that just completely disregard the 4 solo careers of the biggest band of all time.
And I don't know if it's because of not wanting to know, or it's because not being able to afford, or not bothering, or I don't know what it is. Nowadays, you can listen to it online. You don't have to pay. But I don't get it, because it's part of who they are as a group. That's part of what makes it.
Right.
And Peter's, you mentioned Peter's solo album earlier, and I think that's an amazing record. And it's in a way, it's sad that he only ever managed to do like one complete album, because clearly he had it in him to do some fantastic music.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I mean, he had such a work ethic too. I mean, he stuck with Mickey during some of those, darker years of the Monkees, where, you lost Davey in 2012, and obviously Mike came in, helped them finish the tour, and then Mike went back and did his thing. Mickey and Peter carried the legacy, the longest. And then you obviously had them, their work together in the 80s when the Monkees were kind of coming back together. Davey wasn't with them at that point. Peter, obviously, as talented as he was, and, unfortunately with the show and how they portrayed his character, he seemed like the one who didn't have talent. But you watch him play his instruments, and the vast catalog, and the Laurel Canyon friends that he had. I was listening to you probably know this song, "Come On In," which the other day, and I thought, how come this never made it onto an album in the 60s? Yeah,
that's such a great recording, and it would fit on many of their albums. Why?
Right.
His vocals are great on that.
Right.
So yeah, I think if they had given him more, he would have done more great songs.
Absolutely.
Even on Tool, his songs on Tool are fantastic as well.
Mm-hmm.
Probably some of the best.
Right.
So yeah.
No, I mean it's wonderful for the fans to have this stuff, and you kind of just alluded to a tease for something later this year from the Davey camp. Is there, for what you are allowed to say, what you are wanting to say, are there other releases that fans could look forward to? And again, you don't have to say titles, but the 7A is 2026 a busy year for 7A?
It's fairly busy. I still got many sort of loose ends because a lot of these deals don't happen overnight, and it's still the case that one project more or less pays for the next. So if one album sells well, then we can take some of that money and go and put that into another project. But I'm working on a couple of non-Monkees related projects as well, and one of them is on the screen behind me, which is a brand new album by Mungo Jerry.
Oh wow!
And it's a joy to be able to work with him. He's just turned 80, and he's still absolutely full of energy and writes these old new songs that he's written. In Europe and in many other countries, he had about 10 or 15 top 20 hits. And in America, a lot of people only remember him for In the Summertime, which was obviously a massive, massive number one. But he's so much more than that. I mean, he really is a great songwriter and great artist. And it's a joy to be able to bring out this new album by him. I have got something else that there's an artist that you may not have heard of called Sue Glover. Mm-hmm. Sue Glover is one of these sort of unsung heroes who has been on more than 2,000 recordings, hit recordings by other people. If you listen to 20th Century Boy, T-Rex, and you listen to a lot of these recordings, her voice is very bright and clear in the background. One of the most used backing singers ever. Elton John, Tom Jones, Frank Zappa. She's been on all these albums, 2,000 songs. And she's finally bringing out a solo album after many years, and it's got a previously unreleased duet with David Jones on it.
Wow!
And it's a song that David Jones wrote himself for his wife at the time, Anita. Mm-hmm. And it was one that Sue found in the vaults, and she contacted Davis Estate, and Davis Estate contacted me. So we're bringing out her album, and it's coming out early June. Sue Glover, and I'll be mentioning this on the 7A Facebook group and social media and our website. This track, nobody will ever have heard it before. It's not a track that you would have found on a bootleg somewhere. It's literally something that both me and the estate never knew about. So It's a great sort of hidden gem to have a duet with David Jones, which is going to be out. So yeah, I've got Mungo Jerry and David Jones coming out. I have been talking to Nesmith's estate about possibly doing some stuff, but it's not straightforward because of many reasons. But I'm not going to give up, and I'm keep trying to see if we can do something.
That's fantastic to hear as a Monkees fan and just a fan of really good music that should not be lost to the sands of time. Yeah, you're doing great work for the music industry, and I think just to use you as the platform, I think everybody needs to support labels like 7A that are here for the joy of the music and the music first. And I would say that's kind of an unwritten tagline for you all is the music is top priority, and to get that out to the masses is really it's really been fun to watch over the years, and I really
thank you.
Always look forward to your releases, whether it's the Monkees or the Lemon Sherbets or Boyce and Hart or Mungo Jerry. Like it's always fun when you all release something. And Glenn, this was a absolute privilege and an honor to talk to you. And
thank you, Sam. Likewise. And listen, thank you so much for all your support over the years. I remember ever since we did the Dolan Sings Nesmith, and ever since that came out, and the years roll past quickly, don't they? And and you've always been there. So thank you so much for all your help and support.
Absolutely.
And let's stay in touch. Thank you so much for having me on here. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Glenn. Everybody, please go. I'll have the link in the video description for 7A Records. Go check it out. There's a big store. You'll find something that you like. I guarantee it. And Glenn, thank you again, my friend.
Thank you, Sam.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
All right, everybody.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.